Have you ever wondered what a multi-million-dollar pitch to an investor actually looks like? I'm not talking about textbook theory. I mean the real nuts and bolts. Well, today we're going to tear down a confidential business plan for an AI education company to see exactly how you build the case for a unicorn. Okay, let's dive right in.
Every great pitch, every great pitch, has to start with a number that just makes you sit up and pay attention. And boom, here it is. This is the projected revenue in just year 3, over 250 crore. Now that's a seriously ambitious number, and it immediately makes you ask one simple question. How on earth do you build a machine that can actually scale that fast and generate that kind of value? That's the big question this entire pitch is built to answer. And the answer, well, it always starts with a massive, painful problem.
You see, any venture that's worth investing in doesn't just offer a nice-to-have product. No, it targets a system that's already at its breaking point. And according to this plan, the Indian education system is facing some really critical failures, starting with its most valuable asset, the teachers. So the first core problem is a massive, and I mean massive, drain on teacher productivity. Can you believe it? Teachers are spending nearly half their time not actually teaching, but just buried in administrative tasks. We're talking grading, lesson planning, attendance, reports. It's this relentless cycle that leads to burnout and, of course, directly hits the quality of education. Now, this is what I find really brilliant about this slide. They quantified the pain. This isn't just a feeling of being overworked. This is a 4 trillion rupee annual loss in economic productivity. That's the cost of having your most skilled educators basically act as administrators. It's a staggering number that immediately frames this as a huge, national-level economic problem, not just some issue in a classroom. And problem number 2 is the direct result of the first one. Right, when teachers are completely overwhelmed, it's the students who suffer. The curriculum is rigid, it's one-size-fits-all, which means individual learning needs just get ignored. So the students who fall behind, they just stay behind. And this creates these huge learning gaps, especially in non-metro areas. And the stakes here? They couldn't be higher. In rural areas, this systemic failure puts up to 40% of students at risk of dropping out completely. We're literally talking about millions of students whose potential is just being lost. So the problem is crystal clear. It's expensive, it's systemic, and it's incredibly urgent. Okay, so with a problem that big, how do you even begin to solve it? A great pitch doesn't just offer a band-aid. It presents a vision for a totally new way of doing things. In this case, they're proposing what's essentially a new central nervous system for every school. Now, this is crucial. This is not just another app. It's a single, unified platform. Think of it like an AI co-pilot for the entire school ecosystem. It pulls everything together, from learning tools and administrative software, the ERPs, all the way to bus tracking, all in one seamless, intelligent system. So if we break it down, the platform is built on 5 key pillars. It gives teachers AI tools to automate all that admin work. It gives students an adaptive learning engine that actually personalizes their education. And it gives the administration a full ERP, bus tracking, and a powerful AI dashboard for the principal. Basically, every single person involved gets a superpower. And this slide just illustrates the transformation perfectly. It takes schools from this world of chaos, data trapped everywhere, endless manual work, no single source of truth, and moves them into a world of clarity. One platform, one single flow of data, and smart automation tying it all together. It's a total game changer. All right, so you've got a huge problem and a really elegant solution. But the big question is, where do you sell it? The smartest companies don't just build a great product. They find a market that everyone else has overlooked, a market that's just primed for explosive growth. Now this is a really interesting slide. Check out the strategy here. Instead of fighting it out in the saturated Tier 1 metro cities, which are growing at just 8%, they're targeting the Tier 2 and Tier 3 markets. Why? Because that's where the real growth is happening, a staggering 35 to 42%. That is the definition of a blue ocean opportunity. But how do they defend this new territory? Well, the pitch lays out a 5-part competitive moat. First, the all-in-one integration is just really hard to copy. The deep localization for Indian curricula gives them a huge home field advantage. Their AI is what they call agentic. It actually takes action, it doesn't just give suggestions. And get this, a freemium model gets them in the door where other companies can't even afford to play. So this brings us to the part every single investor is waiting for. A great idea is one thing, but how does it actually make money? The business model has to be just as compelling as the product itself. So let's look at the numbers.
It all starts right here. Through a really clever go-to-market strategy that focuses on digital channels and key partnerships, they can acquire an entire school as a customer for just 2,000 rupees. That is an incredibly efficient sales engine. Now, you pair that super low acquisition cost with this number. The lifetime value of that same school is 2 lakh rupees. And that's because the platform becomes so deeply embedded in how the school runs that they are very, very unlikely to ever leave. And when you put those two numbers together, you get this, the magic ratio, a 100-to-1 return on customer acquisition. Think about that for a second. For every 1 rupee they spend on sales and marketing, they expect to get 100 rupees back. That is the sign of a hyperscalable, highly profitable business. And you can see exactly where that 100x ratio leads. This chart shows their pretty conservative growth model, going from 2.5 crores in year 1 all the way to over 137 crores by year 3. This is that classic hockey stick growth that defines a venture-backable business. Okay, this brings us to the final, absolutely critical part of the pitch. You've laid out the problem, the solution, the market, and the model. Now you have to be crystal clear about what you need and what you're offering in return. This is the ask. They're asking for a Series A round of between 800,000 and 1.2 million US dollars. Now, this isn't some random number they plucked out of the air. It's the exact amount of capital they've calculated that they need to fuel the next 12 to 18 months of growth and hit those critical year 2 milestones. And they show you exactly where every single dollar is going to go. The majority, 60%, goes right back into making the product even better and harder to compete with. The rest is strategically split to scale up sales, ensure everything is compliant, and just keep the lights on. It shows real discipline and a very clear plan for execution. This timeline is great because it shows they're not just thinking about the next year. They're planning for a massive, multi-stage journey. This first round, it's just the beginning. It sets them up for a much larger Series B to scale across the region, and then a Series C to go global, with a potential valuation well into the hundreds of millions. And the pitch deck ends with this. It's not just a summary, it's a direct challenge. It's a call to action that's designed to turn the investor from just a passive observer into a potential partner in building the future. It leaves you with this powerful sense of both urgency and opportunity. So the final question is, what would you do?